This video is brought to you by ArfTac.com.
Well, hello and welcome, dear viewers. This video is made possible by our good friends over at ArfTac.com. Justin sent this in to me and said, enjoy. This right now is around 360 bucks. However, if you use discount code CDOES, you can get 11% off any optic or mount available from their website. So, Justin and the gentleman over at ArfTac, thank you very much for making this video possible. Without further ado, what do we have here? Well, it's very clearly a HOLOSUN product, but not just any HOLOSUN product. It's perhaps their smallest product to date, and that is because this is specifically designed for the Glock MOS. Ah, that's a little bit better. I had to change the settings on my camera so this way we could actually see what the box says. This is clearly the SCS, or the Solar Charging Sight. This is designed specifically for the Glock MOS. It comes with the HOLOSUN standard 3 reticle settings, which is fantastic, and has all of these nice little features. With all that being said, let's crack this sucker open and see exactly what we've got inside. Very standard HOLOSUN case, which are great. These are actually fantastic. Nice hard plastic. They're really well fitted inside, and they just work keeping everything nice and secure. Going through the owner's manual real quick. So, starting at the front, here's everything you're going to need to know. One important fact is this does not have a removable battery. It's completely charged by the solar cell. That is really it for this side. You obviously have your 3 reticle options, which are adjustable with the single function button on the side. To mount it, 15 inch-pounds blue Loctite with the 2 screws directly to the slide of your Glock MOS. And that's basically it. To shut it off, you do have to cycle through your reticle options. Press and hold, it will shut off. The brightness setting on this is automatic, but you can override it temporarily. And so far for my uses, the brightness on it has been basically perfect. And that is basically it for the owner's manual. Now, with all that out of the way, what else is in the box? Well, that's really it. You have a little cleaning cloth, a little silica gel, a handy-dandy tool, which is always nice, and the optic itself. Just look at this little guy. It is so friggin' small and cute, and extremely lightweight. Now, as small and as light as this is, and it is, because it's only 1.2 ounces, it's still not as small and as lightweight as some other possible options out there. The only thing I have to compare this with is a Primary Arms Classic. I'm not going to get too involved in what the model and make is, because I don't even know if I'm supposed to be showing this thing yet, but you can clearly see this is about as wide. In fact, it's a little bit narrower, a little bit shorter in both the length and the height, and it comes in at a very minimal 0.67 ounces, so almost half the weight. But regardless, this thing is still fairly lightweight. Now, like I said earlier, this thing really is super simple. You have the single function button right there, which has no audible click, but a decent detent. You know that you're clicking it. However, you really have to be mindful of where your finger is going to be placed, because you could very easily miss it. If you have short nails, I mean, I cut my nails fairly frequently, but if you have really short nails, like you bite them, you might not be able to push this. With the pad of my thumb, I can just get it, but I have to put a significant amount of force to try to get it closed. Other than that, you only have 2 other adjustments, your elevation and your windage. Now, as far as the controls on this go, they're actually very nicely spaced. You know exactly when you're going into the next one as far as feel and sound. They're much better than some of the other options I've gotten recently. As far as the window through it, as you can see, it's pretty decent. There is a large frame around this thing, but guess what? I don't mind that in something this small, primarily because I don't want this thing to break. Yeah, it's made out of titanium. Titanium is very strong, but I don't want to have to drop this or hit this into something and have it be a problem. You can see right there we have the single dot, press and hold. Now we have the circle, press and hold again, and that's off, press and hold again. See? It's a little hard getting through this thing. Press and hold again. There we go. Finally, we have our dot and our circle. It's a little bit smaller than some people might like, but you know what? It's nice to have the option. I've been running this in the dot form only, and it's been really good for me. But see, we didn't think you had a pistol. you're right, I don't have a pistol. What I have instead is an airsoft pistol that I bought specifically for this thing, because I wanted to test this thoroughly, as well as all the other pistol optics I've been getting. I've been getting a ton of them. And you know what? I figured, why not get something where I can actually mount this thing up and run it properly. Now, mounting this thing couldn't be any easier. Granted, this is an airsoft gun, so I'm not expecting it to be perfect, but you literally put it on top like that. It catches on this little lock on the side. As you can see, it's got the female version over here on the optic. Down, over. You put your two little screws on top. They are little, so be very mindful not to strip them or cross-thread them. And because this is an airsoft gun, I'm not going to go ahead and torque this down to 15 inch-pounds. I'm just going to give it a snug little bit. And there you have it. Now, one of the really cool features about the Glock MOS system and this HOLOSUN SCS is that you use the optic in conjunction with the factory iron sights. And they don't have to be high. As you can clearly see, even if we're not paying attention to the green dot, which is way off to the side, yes, it's properly zeroed for this pistol. The irons I haven't drifted over yet, but you can see very clearly you could line up both the front and the rear sight and still look through the window. So that is really the party piece of this system. You don't have to worry about having any extra high sights or have the slide milled to put your rear sight in front of the optic. It just works as simple as that. And I gotta say, in use of it so far, it's been fantastic. And with that, let's get behind this thing and see what it's actually like to use.
Just like everything else in life, there are pros and cons to everything. This is no exception. As we look through it on my painting here at about 15 or so feet, you will notice that the lights above it reflect down onto the emitter and thus back onto the glass. You could see the reticle clearly right in the middle, but around that is a very small box. That box sort of glistens when the light catches it just right. So if you are in an area where there's a lot of ambient light like this, different light bulbs and whatnot, there could potentially be a lot of flashback towards the glass. I haven't noticed that with a couple of the other options that I've been playing around with recently. This is really the only one. And I think that has something to do with how far back the emitter is from the lens itself. It is pretty far. Trying to cycle through all the different reticles with the pad of my thumb is a little challenging, like I had mentioned earlier. You really need to get it just right. It's also quite challenging looking through a camera trying to bring a pistol up in perfect line of sight, so pardon me for not being more fluent with it. The dot on this is very good, but I gotta be honest, I really like the big circle without the dot in the middle, just like this. Every time I pick this up and I go shoot with it, I go mock clearing rooms, yeah, I LARP, yeah, what are you gonna do about it? It just feels really natural to me.
Pew, 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 pew.
So, say what you want, I know I'm not going to be testing this thing under extreme recoil
Pew, pew, pew.
of an actual pistol,
Pew, pew.
but setting this area up down here and clearing it with an airsoft pistol is great, not only practice with firing a pistol, but also testing of the optic itself.
Pew, pew.
Because it's going to function exactly the same way as it would in real life,
Pew, pew.
just not knowing if it's going to hold up to the recoil as well. Yeah, you can make fun of me for it later, but I go around here running it as fast as I can. This is a good test for me to see how well the optic is going to allow me to pick up a target through the glass. And honestly, on these full-size IPSCs here, at a varying distance, I'd say anywhere from 5 to 10 yards, it's extremely good. The glass on this is very good. It's got low distortion and only a little bit of greenish tint. It's honestly so low you really have to be looking for it to pick it up. The reticle seems pretty sharp to my eyes, unmagnified. We'll touch on that more later, but when you're just looking through it as you would normally look through it, it's very nice. And again, because this is the HOLOSUN and it has 3 different reticles, you could fine tune it for whatever you want. I found that no matter what reticle I was using, the zero didn't shift whatsoever. Again, I'm only using this on an airsoft gun that's not that accurate to begin with. However, it just seemed to plain old work. And the last thing to touch upon before we move outside is the brightness of the illumination. In that environment, it worked very well. The flashlight wasn't necessarily bright enough to increase its auto brightness setting, but it was good enough that I could pick it up on any target that we had down there. However, if you're the type of person that wants it to be at full brightness all the time, it might not be as bright as you would like for the majority of the time. Enough of the brightness of the illumination though, let's focus a little bit more on the little bit of distortion and tinting that it has. Going sideways across the power pole, you can see that it pulls ever so slightly towards the end, and there is that little slight greenish tint. Going over the power lines, you'll see it's actually pretty damn good, but there is a very touch towards the edges and a little bit extra at the top. Again, given the shape of this glass as a whole, that's to be expected and pretty common amongst most of these micro little red dots. Alright, fine, I'll harp on the illumination one more time. It does seem a little dim, but as you can see, putting a flashlight over it, the reticle does get considerably brighter, even though we are in the slightly higher brightness mode, which is very easily activated by pushing that side button just once, real quick. If you press and hold, no bueno. That'll just change the reticle shape. Now, though I highly doubt anyone will be magnifying their HOLOSUN SCS, if you decided to do so, it's not going to work out that well for you. I said earlier that the glass looks really good when you're using it by itself, and that's true. However, when you magnify it, you could easily see the reticle doesn't seem as sharp as it should be. And before you could even ask the question, oh, is it the magnifier? No, it's not. The magnifier is perfectly clear. So if you think that you're going to put this on a carbine, anvil mount or something like that, and then put a magnifier behind it, just know that it's not going to be an ideal option for you. With the brightness on full and being flooded with solid ambient light, of course, the reticle is going to look a little bit brighter. Panning across the targets again shows that it's got a very minor amount of distortion. Given the overall size and the shape of this glass, I was surprised by how little distortion it has. If you look at something like the Burst Fastfire 3, it's a much larger window. That still manages to have a lot more distortion than this and tint. So in that regard, HOLOSUN did a very good job. And you know what? HOLOSUN as a whole did a good job with this thing. It manages to be fairly small, fairly lightweight. This is a titanium body. Yeah, there are some options that are going to be smaller and lighter, but given the overall shape and feel and construction of this thing, I feel like it's going to withstand literally hitting nails into boards. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you had to do it, I'm sure it would hold up pretty damn good. And that's the whole point of this optic. You're going to throw this on a Glock MOS and you're going to beat the ever-loving shit out of it. Hopefully it'll stand up. And guess what? If it doesn't, HOLOSUN at least has a fairly decent warranty. Recently, one of my Patreon providers had to send in his HM3X to get repaired because one of the erectors had slid out, and it took about 3 to 4 weeks to get a replacement back. When I had picked up the HOLOSUN 403 and the HM3X from ArfTac, opened the box to find that there was 2 screws missing. ArfTac very quickly sent me 2 screws out of another box that they had pulled to the side for themselves and sent it to me within 2 days. It took HOLOSUN about a week and a half to get those screws in. So they're not as fast as a company like Vortex, but at least they'll still replace your stuff. As nice as the solar panel is on this, I think HOLOSUN went a little bit too far in the extreme of we're only going to rely on that for the brightness setting. As you saw, if I cover with my hand, it completely basically powers itself down to be as light as possible, so this way it thinks you're in a darker environment. And if I shine my flashlight over it, it gets significantly brighter. I do wish there was a better override system, maybe just another button just to max it, and then use the standard button to bring it back to auto setting. That's the only real nitpick I could really see with this thing. But I understand what HOLOSUN was trying to do. They're trying to follow the acronym KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. What could go wrong if you only have one button? You throw it on there and you just get used to how it's going to operate, and that's it. But as much as I like that mindset and that mantra, every once in a while I wish I just had a little bit more control. That's why I usually drive manual cars, because no matter what, an automatic transmission could do something really stupid, whereas if I do something stupid with the transmission, then that's on me. And unlike some other holographic products, this doesn't have any reticle fade, which means that once we go towards the end of the glass, the reticle is completely visible until we crest past it. It's a really good performing little piece of kit. And if you own a Glock MOS and you're looking for an optic, I don't think you should look much farther than this HOLOSUN SCS. I'm not just saying that. I would love to own a Glock 34 MOS, throw this on top, and just have it be, okay, a gun that I'm going to throw against the wall and not give a shit about and just have it work. I don't think that this would give me much of a problem. Anyway, a huge thank you to the guys over at ArfTac for making this video possible. I really appreciate you guys sending this over. This has been awesome. Made me spend a little bit of money on an airsoft pistol, but I know it's going to go to good use. For the rest of you out there, thank you all very much for watching. And as always, see you again next time. And a huge thank you to my Patreon providers and my Subscribe subscribers. Without you, this truly wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to support my channel but don't want to join either of those, I completely understand. But you could still help by using my affiliate links in the description below, and or like, share, and subscribe as always. Again, thank you very much.